Welcome back. Several districts in our community already welcoming back their students, but back to school season isn't quite over yet for others.
That's right. Another major district kicks off the new school year on Monday, Northside ISD. And today we're joined by the NISD Superintendent Dr. Brian T. Woods.
Thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Woods.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Now, we understand that the district has now issued a temporary mask mandate. Are you now planning to extend it, or what would it take to extend it?
Well, it's temporary, and it doesn't begin until Monday when students come back to the building. We haven't set a defined set of metrics about what will cause it to either be ended or be extended. We think that the current surge of cases in Bexar County is serious enough that it warrants this temporary measure.
And some protections have been added this year, but how is it going to be different from last year? Plexiglass and so forth.
Yeah, I don't think it will be, at least to begin the year, a lot different from last year. A lot of the things that we put in place last year, including voluntary testing and contact tracing, cleaning surfaces throughout the day, partitions in places where it's appropriate, all of those things are going to be available. We'll provide PPE to students and staff if they need it. So it will look very similar to last year, at least in these first few weeks.
Superintendent, we understand there were 13 different vaccination sites offered at both the high school and middle school campuses. What are the stats on those? How many people were vaccinated, those 12 years in age and older, and what was the goal?
Yeah, we hadn't set really a formal goal. We had pretty good turnout at every one of those sites. We had between 50 and 70 vaccinated at each one of those sites. And we'll continue to offer those here early in the school year, Saturdays as well as after hours, to try to make them available to as many people as possible. I think all of us are reading that what's going on now is encouraging families with children 12 to 18 to get vaccinated, and we want to be a source of that if that's what families want.
In the meantime, those who have breakthrough cases or turn up sick and end up getting a positive COVID test, what are the procedures for that? How are they quarantined? Are you requiring a specific quarantine time period?
Yes, we are. We're actually gonna follow, again, very similar to what we did a year ago, the CDC recommendation around quarantine. Whether it's a breakthrough case or not, we're going to ask folks to stay away from the school building for a number of days. And as I'm sure you know, that depends on whether I'm fully vaccinated or not, right? The length of that time. But we'll follow those same quarantine procedures we did in the spring, again, at least for the first few weeks of the school year, and at least while case numbers are high in the community.
Is that going to be required to quarantine or asked to quarantine?
It's going to be required to quarantine, and that's not a local decision. The Department of State Health Services has issued that directive in the last few days, and so that's not a choice that schools have. It's a directive that they must follow.
I see.
Superintendent, when or how will parents be notified if their child is exposed to a positive case of COVID-19?
Yeah, again, very similar to what we did a year ago. We will make every effort. Our nurses have done just incredible work in the last year to try to contact trace and then notify families individually if we believe that they've been in close contact. And so that will also look very similar to how we operated in the last school year.
It's been a bit controversial, some parents wanting virtual learning, some saying, please don't offer it. It disrupts the entire learning process. What is the possibility that you're going to have virtual learning again?
Yeah, it's a great question. We hope not to have to do that because we know students are, for the vast majority, better off in the building with their peers and with their teachers. We've got great data that shows us that. That said, if we have to close a classroom or, God forbid, close a school for a period of time, then obviously we will try to stand something up that meets the needs of kids to the best of our ability. While it's not virtual education, we're also planning to try to serve students who have to be quarantined for that relatively short period of time as best we can, so that they don't just simply miss 10 days of instruction if they're exposed to the virus.
At what point would you feel like you had to go back to virtual learning? The number of cases, a recommendation from maybe the CDC?
Yeah, I think it would be a combination of factors from the local public health folks, looking at what's going on in the city and the county, but then looking at it school by school, right? We very much hope not to have to issue blanket rules any longer than we have to. And so if we feel like a school's in a situation where we need to go virtual for a short period of time, we'd rather do that at the school level than all across the system level and have it affect 105,000 students.
Superintendent, we're at the beginning of the fall semester, the new academic school year, and sports is something that is definitely a hot topic during the fall. What can you talk to us about scrimmages, games? Are they going to continue as planned?
For now, they are definitely going to continue as planned. When we look back at, and obviously we're in a different environment, and I acknowledge that, but when we look back at those activities last fall, we really had relatively little issue, especially at events that are, for the most part, outdoors. And so we're going to continue with those until we have data that indicates that we shouldn't. But as of now, our football teams are scrimmaging this week. Our first games are next week, and we are planning to go forward as usual with those.
Now, Superintendent, something that's very important to mention, transportation. We understand there was a bus driver shortage. Is that still the case, and how is that being addressed?
That is still the case, and unfortunately, that was the case prior to COVID. Folks are, especially in this part of our state, who have a commercial driver's license are in very high demand. And so we've tried to raise our pay, as have districts all across this area, for a number of years to address that. And so there are ways to get around some of those issues by consolidating routes and so forth. But there are positives and negatives to each of those solutions. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The shortage of bus drivers and now, frankly, custodians and folks in our child nutrition department, those are real. As I'm sure you all have reported, folks are making really pretty high wages in lots of places in Bexar County and all over these days. And so wage competition is tough.
The other tough item to try to keep your staff all together, or at least staffed at the levels that you want, is that what are you going to do in regard to a student or a teacher or a staff member who is exposed? Are they going to be required to stay home, quarantine, and not come in to work or school?
Yeah, the answer to the question is a little bit more complex. So if I'm a fully vaccinated individual and I don't have any symptoms, then we won't require that person to quarantine. If I'm not fully vaccinated and we believe it's a close contact situation, we will require quarantine in that case. So it's a little bit more nuanced depending upon vaccine status.
And obviously that is going to spur people on to get vaccinated. That's one more reason to do so because of what you just said. If you're not vaccinated and you come in close contact, you're going to be asked to quarantine where otherwise you would not.
That's true, and it's actually how we've structured our leave policy as well. If folks in our system are fully vaccinated and willing to tell us that that's the case, then we're going to actually cover more potential leave days due to a COVID illness than we would for a non-vaccinated staff member. And
one final question, out of curiosity, are you guys already making plans to offer booster shots to your students as soon as that's approved?
We will, as soon as that's approved, and assuming it's approved for students under the age of 18, we will offer that, as well as continue to offer the initial first 2 doses for those that have decided, who haven't yet decided to get vaccinated. So I think that's going to be an ongoing effort in school districts all over this area, all over the country, I'm sure. But yes, is the answer to the question. Once that booster is approved, then we will begin offering it as well.
NISD Superintendent, thank you so much for joining us and answering those very, very important questions.
Yeah, appreciate you joining us. You're about to get big-footed by President Biden, we think, in a minute. So we're going to move on to weather from here. In the meantime, have a great afternoon.
All right, take care. Thank you.